am here with Nieko McDaniel. He is an artist who just finished up his MFA at where were you? You're in Washington D.C. at
Mm-hmm. At
um,
American University.
American University. Yeah. You have just taken a plane back to California amidst everything. How you been, man? How you been doing?
I'm good. I think I've made the best out of the current quarantine situation and the riots and all that. Um, it's weird. You kind of first month of being in quarantine, this is not normal. This is not normal. But I kind of get acclimated to that, as sure as many people do. And like this is the new normal. Being at home by myself within confined areas, feeling nervous to go out. Like even in the grocery store. I hated growing grocery shopping before, and now I even don't like it anymore. It's just like it's curious, but I'm making the best. I just moved home to California 2 days ago. Uh, secure financial reasons, I just make it the best that I can and get some longevity of what I currently hold on to. So.
Nice, man. So tell us a little about your work and your process and kind of like how you've been developing your current body of work. Yeah, we'll go into it from there.
Yeah, well, if you're referring at least to my last good 4 months of work, of course, it was my thesis work, and it was really informed from the year and a half of my grad school and also even my undergrad. I wanted to make a body of work that shows where my identity comes from. And I realized it's not just where my identity comes from, but where a lot of people's identity is formed is through their childhood and the experiences and environments that they grew up in and took part of. And so, of course, I think all of those situations and experiences from my childhood were like I were silly, as a kid. I'm a wacky person. I wanted to make the artwork wacky and silly, but also talk about serious things. Even in my undergraduate Stanislaus, I can remember in my artwork I use comical imagery, but talk about serious stereotypes or things that are not so funny to people, but I do it as a way, like satire, and a way to laugh out like how irresponsible and neglectful and narcissistic we are and how we treat each other. And that's like it's not what we want. Like, oh, let me laugh at racism, because it's such a
ridiculous idea.
Yes, exactly. It's a ridiculous idea. And that's why I laugh at it. And that goes so much to me. For instance, I'll give you an example. Being referred to Black artists just because I'm a Black artist, who, and some people praise that, and that's fine. And I make identity works that have to do about race and ethnicity too, but on my terms. But I don't want to be referred to another Black artist just because you notice my skin color and like you should make work like them. That's happened. It's a real thing. And it's not just by people that are not of color or not as diverse ethnicity or religion or whatever. I mean, that's happened. There's interracial racism too, and I've made work about that as well. So
yeah, I mean, I like your work and the fact that you pull it from your identity and the fact that you do use like race and commentary and social commentary through that. I also believe that your materiality of stuff that you use too, it's not like only from childhood stuff, but like also like how you construct things. Like I remember a lot of your work that you make from cardboard and how you use this childlike, ambition to create these massive things, that like the forts and stuff that we were as kids that you've kind of turned into these monuments and I guess like these wall panels and murals that you created, especially with your piece with the little toy truck in front of it, and then you have this
Yeah.
insane mural behind it, completely like out of cardboard and stuff like that. Yeah, I believe it's fun to kind of, I guess, look at your work not only like and see like the playfulness that you have for it, but there is like the serious content that lies beneath it, like in your childhood drawings about like uh like you're talking about yourself and like how you look like you were never good with the girls.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
And,
Totally.
like it's really fun to kind of see how you've taken, and I, like I understand that like because you're a black artist doesn't mean that you only make black arts, um, and I guess especially right now it's kind of hard to
Right.
not identify with that because I mean I mean, you guys have been passed over, and unless you identify as that socially, it almost kind of keeps you underneath the radar a lot of the time.
Totally. It categorizes you, it boxes you. So some people will only look at you in that aspect, I'm like, can a black artist also just be interested in cubism? Can they make cubism and not it be black cubism?
Yeah.
And it's not just about like black artists, with your any race, any religion, any gender, it doesn't matter. I think in order to be accepted by all, you have to break down those categories. It's if you want to categorize yourself, that's fine. But it's not how other people should label you, it's how you should label yourself.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. When I was going through my undergrad, I was considered a queer artist. And being a straight male, I was always confused by this justification of my work. And they always kind of made sense to me when they would approach it as in like, you have an extremely masculine point of view. And so when you're making work, not only like you make like a masculine way, but you tell stories in a masculine way. And so like, so when people say like, being identified as certain types of people, it's always very interesting to me because I always take that like kind of information that was brought to me and be like, yeah, I'm not necessarily a queer, like, like I don't identify that way.
Right.
Do make, personal work and identify, masculinely. So yeah, like, I guess you could put me in that category. Like, and, it's not something I ever really took second thought to, but like when you're talking about being like, being identified as a black artist, like you're not necessarily like going out there and trying to become like, but it's because of your view and like your situations that you've become labeled this situation as well.
Yeah. Yeah. That's totally it. And I'll give you another example of two people prominent in the art world. I can't take their names. I give you their names right now. But at American University, apparently it is the historians who basically made work that falls in the line of feminism, but they would have never labeled themselves as feminist.
Yep.
During the time it was being created, right? Same thing for queer art. Probably you can't label something at the time that is going on.
Exactly.
And but it's interesting to hear that, especially from two white women, who weren't always seen in the limelight and had a voice to speak about those things. But people acknowledge them for being in that category, and also are appreciative of what they've done, and like just it's also interesting to see that from having a strong undergrad that was based in art history and also like feminist theory, going to like that place, which I had no idea, but the art history program there is extremely strong, and it's way bigger, of course. And they hold the feminist art history conference there every other year. So I mean, people from all over the country go there, so it's a big deal. But yeah.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. So with everything going on, you just got done with your thesis. how has the current pandemic and like the civil rights, movement that's happening right now, has it affected the way you're making work now? Has it changed your mind and what you've been doing, or what you're thinking about doing? Like, how has it all been affecting you?
You know, I really kept strong to what I wanted to do when I was creating my thesis. So about halfway through the semester, quarantine happened in DC. Luckily, I got a lot of body of work done before the quarantine happened, but I was still continuing to create work, and I was continuing to get my thesis work to be presentable. And it there was people in my program that definitely changed what they were making and how they were making it because of quarantine.
Yeah.
I didn't allow myself to do that. I was like, no, I have this idea, I got to stick to it. And luckily it wasn't hard enough because I had gotten like the major stuff out of the way. I had all the materials, all the objects either found or bought already.
Yeah.
And I remember, so quarantine happened. We had spring break.
Hmm.
Right after spring break, they announced school shut down. School shut down, but us MFA students still had access to our studios. That saved me. That saved me because from then on, of course, I'm in the studio every day. I'm working, but I knew worse was going to happen, so I started documenting like crazy,
Nice.
and a lot of others didn't in my program, and that also caused them to change as well. But the fact that I had some work, some pieces done, allowed me to continue the pieces that I could do at home or getting it ready digitally to present it. So it didn't really change. I knew what I was going to say. I had to write it all down, get it to form in words. It's interesting, presenting your work in person is different from like, okay, now I have to make it all digital.
Yeah.
And like I that sounds such like a simple thing, but there's so many little nuances. I mean, that changes. I mean, the fact that I have to get everything to PowerPoint, the files, are they gonna work with your PowerPoint? I had some videos that like just were not converting, and then like so many issues. The fact that I wanted a separate artist statement, I wanted a thesis statement, I wanted a workshop statement. These things I could have just said all at once while presenting my thesis. No, I got to type it all up and make it a new document for every single thing. But I think that made everything stronger. It made me feel more confident about what I was presenting because it was clear. It could show the faculty what I'm doing and the processes to it, the steps leading up to the final like presentation or whatnot. Um, so in a sense, it didn't change my thesis, and for the issues that's going on about racism and prejudice, uh, that didn't happen until really recent. So I wouldn't say that it wasn't in my work because it's obviously in my work, as in those childhood drawings. There's that one, so are you black or white? Obvious. And then the one, who's your daddy, which is a drawing LeVar Burton and myself in like, so I'm in the classroom and we're watching Reading Rainbow, and I'm like 5 or 6 years old in first or kindergarten. And, I was confused because I saw LeVar Burton on TV, and my dad's a dark African American male, and LeVar Burton had an earring on his left ear, and so did my dad. So I was convinced that's my dad. Other kids would ask me too. Other kids would ask me, "Is that your dad?" I'm like, I think so. Like, I think so. I think, and Dad, why didn't you tell me you're on TV? And it wasn't just LeVar Burton. It was any black man. Me and my sister thought any black man was our dad. We go to the mall as a little kid, go run and like, hey, Dad, and hug him or whatever. See Sammy Sosa early, like when he was still playing baseball. That's my dad. What's he doing on TV? So that's like more of an innocent thing, and that doesn't have to do with racial injustice. But
I mean,
but
if you think about it, I mean, there's like you see them so few on TV that I mean,
well, yeah, that's
kind
true.
of yeah, like
That's a good point. But for sure, definitely the "Are you white or black" one. And that's me having to do with when I was 5, my childhood bully asked me, are you white or black? And I didn't understand the concept of race at the time. So I'm thinking white or black has some purity of a good person or bad person. And I remember answering, I'm white, because I'm thinking I'm a good person, And to me, he might have been black even though he was white, but he's black because he's mean to me all the time, you know. And now going to what happened to George Floyd and these other shootings like in Atlanta, that's recent, but it's very prominent right now. It's very unfortunate. In DC, there's definitely in the inner city more of like protests and riots,
Yeah.
and there's flyers everywhere. If you see any racial injustice, call this number, report it, donate to your local bail bond, all those things.
Yeah.
And even that it was a crazy time. It's crazy time for everybody, but imagine that and the quarantine happened at home. I didn't want to risk anything. So most of the time I was in my house, I only go out for grocery shopping at the time. And, I was worried about, being sick, if, catching anybody with COVID, or also being like just a person of color out on the street, because that is a fear. That is an inherent fear. Like I have been pulled over just because I'm dark, when I was 14 years old, I matched the description of another African American male with long hair, and I got pulled over just walking home from school, and even in high school, I remember another kid, he called me the N-word because he was trying to bully me for a computer that I was like doing my work on. I said no, and he called me that word. He got sent to the office, and he turns around and says, I call him a racial slur, like an Asian racial slur. And I was like, no, like he called me that, and he's trying to get me in trouble. I got reprimanded. He didn't, and it was funny. And the woman that asked me was like a superintendent, or not superintendent. She was in the faculty, of course, white woman, married to a black man. And I'm just like, come on. Like, I was just like, this is too unreal. Like, it's just as ironic. So like most people, I would say, nowadays are open to diversity and like the idea of equality. But there's like prejudices all around. So I didn't know who I was going to run into in DC, so I really kept to myself. I don't, it's not that I keep my opinions to myself. We all know what's going on is wrong, and it's scary. But I'm not even saying I'm turning the other cheek. It's just like separating myself from danger.
I mean,
Yeah,
which
totally.
it's absolutely justified. Not only like, I mean, but you're also more likely to catch it going out too, right? So like, I mean, it's the whole thing's just fucked, like in general. And I think we were all kind of expecting, like, no one expected with Trump being elected that racism would like come back in roaring fashion like it has, because we all kind of just thought, I know you grew up in Southern California and you were definitely subject to it growing up in Modesto up here, like like I grew up in lower income neighborhoods and stuff like that, definitely saw it happening around me too.
Mm-hmm.
And it's also just kind of the idea of like any type of authority just kind of scares everyone lower economic status,
Yeah.
like, and then when you try to speak out against it, it's just like it's a terrifying thing, like you were always told to just stop, like don't talk about it, don't bring it up. If like if something happens to someone, then you just make sure they're okay when it's done, like it's not,
Yeah.
you stand up against it. And I think with everything happening, like everyone, I think, just got tired of fucking just taking it. Like it's stupid that it had to take what it did for it to happen, but man, like, and it's just like you don't learn about things that happen like this, like without the fucking media, without personal media, like without like conversations like this that we're having, like without people showing phones, like, and all the different, I guess, like videos that have come up in the last I mean, really, this is the last 3 months that have like really just kind of like flooded everyone's feeds, you know, and how the media just has been controlled by a certain group of people, and we don't know about these things. Like I get mad when like I'm learning about the history that's happened that has caused discrimination. I'm like, why no one taught us this stuff? Like,
Right.
you know, and like I said, like my parents were always kind of they don't talk about racism that much. I come from a mixed race family, like, you know, and so like I always thought that like, you know, we're there with them, you know, like, but I know that my cousins get picked on for certain things because of the color of their skin. And I know it's not the same. But you know, it's like it's just so stupid. It's like fucking, they're all just bullies, man. Everyone's a fucking bully, and it's literally like, like,
That's true.
I,
Everybody's a bully.
dude,
Everybody's a bully.
and I didn't know about the brown bag test. I was watching a printmaking, and I was like, what the?
Yeah,
Why is
yeah,
that even
yeah,
a real thing?
yeah.
I, and man,
I think yeah, that's a great example, and it's so sad because one, it's like a domino effect. You know, you have one experience, bad experience relating to your skin, your gender, your sexuality. It makes you fear for other experiences, but it also makes you judge other people before you know them. So
yes,
they're judging you, and now I'm thinking I'm gonna judge this other person that's not like me. For instance, you know, the fact that there's tons of people that I see on TV or the news that are do not look like people of color, but they're, you know, protesting for Black Lives Matter, which is good. Thank you. But you wonder if their intentions are real. You know, you wonder
yeah,
is it just like, look at me, I'm a good person,
hmm,
or do they really believe that? And that's what's scary.
yeah,
And even when it comes to dating, you know, the first serious thing I mean, I call it serious because it was serious to me.
yeah,
Um, Dating or, you know, having relations with a girl was a person that was not of color, but she made it known to me, oh, I only date black guys. You know, I'm like, oh, thanks for accepting it, but you don't understand how that's also some sort of racism because you're picking us out by class.
yeah,
You have these notions about us that you think are true, and you see us as an exotic, and you don't really label us or see other. We're that special other, and that makes me fear dating any other people that are not of color. You know, and I have or whatnot, but it's something I've had to deal with and think about. It affected my confidence, um, and whether it's a true fear or not, you know. And you take it. It's a new experience with every single buddy else, but it's a thing. It's a real, you know.
yeah. I mean,
It's
we're
real.
all raised completely different, man, and like, you like you know, you go through life thinking one thing, and then all of a sudden something hits you, and then like your whole, you know, perspective changes on something, right? Like that. Like I I don't think I've ever had to worry about that, and that sucks. like you know, like and and yeah, I can't even imagine having to have that be a thing to worry about.
Yeah, one thing I have to also say, I feel bad because, you know, I have many friends with color, and like we all do. And you know what? The thing is, I hate to say white people, but white people are colored too. You know
Yeah,
what I mean? Like they have color, and Italians back in the day when they were immigrating, they were saw as people of color or like some kind. They were a different kind of white. You know,
yeah,
they're a different, and so on. But I have a lot of friends who are you know, aware of these things, and I hate it. I feel bad for them. I know they feel guilt, but it's feel guilt not for necessarily what they've done, but for the past. You know, maybe how ancestors have acted or the people have acted, but it's not them
yeah,
necessarily. And I feel bad. I mean, you know, it hurts my heart that you guys feel guilty, and I'm like, I know you're not always the problem. You know, I'm part of the problem. I'm not completely. unbiased, and I'm not completely unprejudiced. You know, we all have those things.
I think that everyone is a little bit racist, man. And the fact that if you can't even admit that you've ever had a thought about a person because of their
Yep.
economic standing, their
Yep.
their sex, their you know their color, their skin, like if you have never thought something based on something, because we're all taught to think that way, like it's
Yep.
ingrained in us, which is fucked up. Like I hate the fact that like you're gonna think something and you're like, oh, like that's only because that person is that color or that she's it's like she's a woman or it's like it's this advantage thing. I was talking to my mom about how certain situations, and my grandma was a secretary back in Oakland back in the day, and she would take tests and she would get angry that they would give like there was starting like the affirmative action, all that stuff.
Yeah.
For being a person of color, you get 10 more points because you were at a disadvantage.
Mm.
So my grandma would be angry about it. My mom would be angry about it. But at the same time, I was like, well, Mom, they're not going to not take a job. But then she was like, well, then the people of color are also getting angry because like it's basically devaluing them. Like you're giving them extra points, to bring them up to a level. It's like it's so fucked up. Like how we all have to kind of sit around and think that like, oh, like because of disadvantages, because of the color of someone's skin, we have to give them something extra. And it's like, well, why don't we just not the disadvantage in the first place, and you don't have to worry about it, like.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. That's a great point, and like it's, as I said, it's like a domino effect because of the disadvantages that people have had in the past. Now people are trying to make up for it, but it's
Yeah.
like, how do you ever catch up? How do you catch up?
Yeah.
And I mean, you see it in, I know Yale's one. There's another one, but I was so prominent, like speaking out about this to people in my program, but how people that were Asian at Yale, when they were applying to Yale, they had to test extremely higher, have all these higher accolades compared to the regular student that was applying to there, because so many were getting in because they were already great students. So you see, like, I understand you're trying to make it diverse,
Yeah.
but by doing that, there's racism within the foundation because
Yeah.
you're like, you have to try much harder. They say that about sports, the African Americans that were getting into basketball and football, they had to be twice as good as the other oh my God, why am I blanking? Athletes.
Yeah.
Other, just to get a shot, um, and that's not fair. I think a great contemporary story for this is Attack on Titan. I don't know if you read it, but I've read all of it, and it's still going, of course. But it's basically the Marley, and I don't know why I'm blanking on this right now. I read all of it, and the other race, and basically one of them has been secluded. I think it's the Marlians have been secluded into Paradise Island, and they didn't know, but for over 100 years they've been being attacked by this other island, sending over the Titans and whatnot. And why is because they have this power to be Titans, and they're like, you guys are the devils. Basically, it turns out to be racism, and they finally meet each other. They're going at war, whatnot. There's these different factions, but it comes to a point where there's this one soldier from like the one that were inherently racist and attacking them. They're like, what did the new generation do that was attacking or racist to the other generation or that other island? But they're just believing what they've been told through stories. They're like, you're devil because they said so 100 years ago, and we're gonna kill you for that.
Yeah.
That's the same thing. And then the other people are like, what did I ever do? What did I do? That would have been my ancestors that had been mean and Titans and eating you guys, but not me, and I'm not trying to do that now. It's the same thing, it's weird how dynamics play out, but I think that's a great example if people would read that and like how messed up it is.
Well, so taking kind of that as an example and moving on with it, like what do you think about the taking down of all the Confederate like statues, the slave owner stuff, the flag being banned from a lot of events.
Right.
Like, I mean, I have always hated the Confederate flag. It's basically a flag of losers, like essentially.
Yeah.
You know, like I mean, like let's be proud of that we lost the thing, and we're gonna fight for it still. And I like the. I mean, putting up a statue that commemorates like that history, like has always just seems kind of fucked up. Like, oh, we're gonna like and just remind everyone, you know, that like this is what happened here and how fucking stupid it was. Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I have, it's really, I really have mixed feelings about that. Yes, I don't think those flags should be uh, praised or allowed, or statues, those two. And, you know, I see, like, yeah, sure, good that it's being taken down. They're not being allowed for things, but I also understand that's some people's history. And I know there's a small percentage of people in South, like a small percentage of Black people that actually like, they put up the flag, that Confederate flag, because their ancestors were forced to fight in the South, and they're kind of trying to honor it. It's weird stuff. I think it's individual experience.
Yeah,
But the fact that they lost the war, the right history. Um, I don't know if you ever heard of that as well. Like that metaphor, the winners of wars get to write history.
yeah, essentially,
So,
right?
so I mean, you'd imagine how the Holocaust could have been different if the Nazis really won.
Oh yeah,
You
it
know
would
what I
have
mean?
never been a thing, right?
It would have been like that was the right thing to do.
Well,
From the
I
start.
don't think they would have ever mentioned it. It would be like the
Oh,
like fucking like like the Black Wall Street stuff like that we never were taught, in our history
right.
at ever, and like a huge part of our history, and how that has still divided that city. Um,
Yeah.
yeah, like it's like why did no one ever talk about this in like like man, I remember, and this is so it sucks because like I watched Watchmen. I don't know if you've seen that
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. It's
and like they have
fantastic.
that whole thing. I thought it
Hmm.
was just a fucking like fictional, thing that happened, and then like I hear everyone talking about it recently. I was like, what, that fucking happened? I was like, no, what?
Yeah.
Like been going through all like I'm like, what the fuck, man?
Yeah. Yeah.
I think right before the coronavirus, they were actually going to go to the unmarked grave where they threw everyone, and they're going to dig everyone up to actually find out how many people were like put in the grave and like to get actual numbers. And so
Wow.
I'm like, oh fuck, like yeah,
Wow.
it's insane.
That
And
was fantastic.
yeah, I will send it to you.
X-Men. Come on, X-Men.
Fucking X-Men.
Yeah.
Come on.
Yeah.
I mean, like,
Stan Lee knew what was up. He
yeah,
knew what was up back in the day.
Stan Lee's, God, he's my hero, man. I love that man. And yeah, like he had like I I think because like my parents are like they just like had done their own thing. They always hated us reading comic books. I'm like, I thank God that like grocery stores had those comic books, like
Right.
in the racks before the checkout stand. Because when I was a kid, that's where I used to go read them because my mom would never buy them for me.
Right.
And so like I would spend like 3 or 4 days a week where I'd ride my bike to the store with my brother, and we would just sit on that rack and read all those things. And dude, like learning about how mutants were treated differently and all that stuff, and you're like, man, mutants are my fucking heroes. Like they're the ones
Yeah.
that the cool shit. Like, and how like the government was always just kind of a piece of shit about it. Like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and this is exactly what we're going through right now.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the one thing I would say is there's great examples like that, X-Men, Attack on Titan, Watchmen, that give examples of contemporary prejudice that's going on within our society. It's reflective of our society. But the one thing that that we're all fault to is like we can't really say what's the solution. We don't know. Like, otherwise it wouldn't continue to happen. We can make movements towards it and we acknowledge those things, but nobody has has that the answer. And I think that just shows even more reason why we should all work at it together towards equality. You know what I mean? Like, but the one thing that why some people don't want to have equality, and this is just for everything, is greed.
Yeah.
People want to have power over each other
Oh
in
man,
some way or some fashion. I
complacency
mean that's
is America. You know, like
right.
being completely just like okay with where you're at in your life right now. Which I mean, you can look around and you can see just like the people who still have jobs who are still getting paid and how like and see how they react to like the coronavirus. Like obviously people going out and demanding fucking haircuts because they can still afford it. It's like really like come the fuck on, go home and just wait it out like everyone fucking else. Like there are people who can't afford a haircut that are fucking barely affording rent, and you're
Mm-hmm.
fucking you can't go to Applebee's. Like
Right.
sit the fuck down and calm down. Like just you know, and like
Yeah.
and it's weird because those are the same people that are like I'm not a racist. Like I have like this. It's like, man, you're still
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
like
What's so funny is because it's like a first world problem, right?
mhm.
Able to get your hair cut, and
Yeah.
I'm at fault to them too. When I'm doing my applications, I'm just like, I wish this stupid computer would work. Can somebody make this computer work? It's not the end of the world,
Yeah.
but
But you get
like I want it to
irritated
work
very
right
fast.
then. Yeah,
Yes.
I want it to work right there and then there. Like I bought this item. I live in a great country that manufactures things. They need to get it right because I said so. Like
But we don't
it's
worry about. Come on.
yeah, yeah. Uh, but I think yeah, a lot of the class, it's classism, whether it's
Yeah.
economic, whether it's race, whether it's religion or sexuality. It's classism, and that was made. It's by greed. People want to have power over each other. It's like the same with credit. I hate the concept of credit. I hate credit. I hate because yeah, great. I use it. Everything I'm preaching right now, I am also a part of the problem. But I would have never thought to have used it if it wasn't already enacted
Well, I mean,
before I was
I
born.
mean, yeah. If you had to, like, I mean, if we all got paid enough to where we don't have to use credit, fucking great.
Exactly. So and it's not even just credit with like credit and money and credit card. Like you go to the store and you're like, oh, you get so many points and you get this. You get so many percentage off of this item, or do this thing for me, I do this for you. Um, it's
Consumerism,
it's
fucking real, man.
it's and the same issue happened back in the day with bartering. Like
Yeah.
your two tomatoes don't necessarily mean to me that they're equal as one onion. Like
Or like
the people's values are not the same.
selling land. Like,
Yeah, exactly.
I want to
So
give you a
so
couple
once
of goats for this. Like,
a
100.
couple goats for 10 acres or
Yeah,
something.
fucking ridiculous.
So once we have to equal, we have to have the same value. Everybody has to see things at the same value. you know um but as soon as you say that and you're talking about everybody should have the same resources, the same opportunity, then people get scared because it leads to the idea of like, uh-oh, communism,
Communism,
right?
socialism. I'm gonna tell you right
Exactly.
now, man. As someone who lived in a Commonwealth, which is basically a socialist society in Australia for a couple of years, it's fucking awesome. Fucking man, I went to the doctor. I fucking paid $20. They gave me the $20 back like a week later. Like
Wow,
fucking amazing. Like
that's great.
Dan, people that don't like social like healthcare and stuff like that, just go somewhere, experience it for a minute, then come back and tell me it's not good because you're
Right.
insane if you think that.
Yeah. The thing is like we can't just pick and choose like the best of best of everything, right? I know that's hard, like that's almost impossible, but it just shows you. And I learned this in grad school. I'm sure others will learn it too. But you work on a spectrum. You have to find. Everybody's always working to that perfect middle, and whether you find that or not, good on you. But you know, you want to be rich, but you don't want to be poor, but you also want to have health care, but you also want these these items that you don't need. You can't have both all the time. That's what it is. And it's like working toward the middle, and being happy with that. But I mean, America is the land of capitalism, and more is better, But yeah, to be honest, if you want longevity, it's all about sustainability,
Yeah.
and that's like flat line for everybody. You continue. I hate this. Because let's see. A lot of us are working check to check, right?
Mm-hmm.
So when you get the opportunity to work, it's working for another day to work for another day.
Yep.
That's so you can repeat, and that sucks because you might get what's that word that's everything's the same over and over and it starts with M.
Melancholy or
Not melancholy, but it's basically just like mediocrity, but it's just like over and over
monotonous.
this, huh?
Monotonous. Monotonous.
Monotonous. Thank you,
Yes.
thank you,
Yeah.
thank you. Yeah, and it's that I'm working so I can work another day tomorrow, and then I can work the next day after that. But in between, what you're really working for is the chance to eat and the chance to sleep.
Yeah.
And it might be 30 minutes at a time, but you're trying to nourish your body to stay alive.
Yeah. And
That's
see,
literally it.
I would definitely like a society to where we work to live and not to where we live to work, And it seems like
Right.
capitalism, started out like with the baby boomers, like, oh, like you can buy a house and you can afford a family and like one person has to work, the other one takes care of the kids, right? Like that's that whole, I like the nuclear era of like families, right? Or like that's what you work for. That is not the case anymore at all. And it probably hasn't been that way, since probably the early 80s, right? Like
Yeah.
to sustain a family and a household and to be able to pay for everyone and get everything. So it's just, how does capitalism sustain itself when the idea of that, like everyone's striving for, that American dream has changed into something
Hmm.
completely unattainable unless you're making.
Yeah, that's a really good point.
Yeah.
That's a really good point. When it changes, I mean, you're touting this one whole idea, but when it changes, like in the next 5 decades,
Yeah.
you can't really reach that dream, and everybody's striving for that dream, right?
Well, see, then that's the whole making America great again. That's what everyone like is pushing for. But
Hmm.
there is no like foundation that we can go back to that unless people pay everyone what they're worth,
Right.
which is not what people are fighting for right now. They're fighting to basically, eliminate the rights of other people
Hmm.
to protect, law enforcers that are doing wrong, and also like, politicians that are doing wrong. No one's standing up and fighting for like, let's make this place livable again. Like that's not,
Yeah.
you know, what everyone's doing. And that's, I guess, where the civil rights, come in and stuff, that we've lost so much because we all want that ideal life that has been taught to us, or bred into us, I guess, as Americans. Like, oh, like it's the American dream, like this is what you'll get. And it's like, man, as a kid growing up in the 80s, like I have never seen that dream come nearly.
True. What? Yeah.
Like, I don't know what American dream you guys are talking about, but that is not the American dream like I will ever afford, or will, like I don't know if it's what I want. Like, to be honest with you,
Right.
I want like that fucking life.
Right.
So
Yeah.
how do we deal with a whole generation of people that don't want the same thing as the generations before us, right? Like,
Yeah. That is a really good point. I never thought about it that way, but that is so true. I mean, I knew the American dream changed, but when you put it in that perspective, like, oh yeah, it changed, but there's differing sides. Like people are at ends with each other because they don't want the same thing.
yeah,
And I mean, there's a lot of things I could say. Like, well, first of all, how is there a champion if everybody is the champion? Like, yeah, that's not like maybe championing shouldn't be thing, right? There's no number. Not everybody can be number one, and I think that's where
exactly.
like capitalism is like what it's
Well,
sort of saying.
they breed that competitive nature in everyone. Like not only getting a job, as you know right now, like how competitive it is to get a job, but like also like not all of us can get what we want, and how do we deal with not getting that
Right.
and
Right.
being okay with it, I guess, you know?
Totally.
Yeah, no one, there's not first place medals for everyone. Like,
Yeah. Right. Participation points.
here you go.
Um, and then also the thing I would say is, um, you know how when America was like first, sorry, my computer's going crazy. Um, when we were going to America was going to other countries and trying to put capitalism in place as a major like foundation, and then there were, we went to war with other countries that didn't have that. Well, what happens when capitalism takes over? Like everybody, like there is no competition, but with that you always need competition.
Well, you just segregate it into areas of production areas, purchasing areas, living areas, and you have that class system in which, like, we apparently, as the land of the free and home of the brave, like we aren't supposed to have, but is very much apparent, especially.
Right.
Yeah.
So, well, that's what I'm saying. So, say America, like, there's capitalism in the entire world. That's the
Yeah.
system. It's gonna get minute, and it's gonna have those, like you said, those micro systems. So that's where you're gonna see it, like those areas of competition in smaller areas. Yeah, but so it's not like you're never gonna win. It's always gonna be the competition. There's never gonna be. It's like fighting for that equal stance, but you're never gonna achieve it.
Yeah.
And I'm not saying that's like I'm a hater of capitalism. Like,
Well,
I'm just trying to show, like, if you pick and choose, and you have to point out the flaws with every single thing, and
yes,
you
but
also
you also, if you think about it, we don't ever push capitalism on other countries. We push democracy.
okay, that's true. That is,
Because,
yeah, that's even,
yeah,
yeah,
we don't want another capitalist society. We want another democratic society
you're right.
that we can manipulate and run.
Well, isn't that interesting? Because I agree with that, but America's actually a republic. You know what I mean? Like,
Yep.
it's we we want those democratic things, but maybe from other countries, like, as you said, but we're actually a republic.
It,
So,
it's an interesting system, like, and we're, like I said, we're all taught these values and core values that are supposed to give us this morality that is American. But in reality, the morality of the American people is pretty fucking terrible. Like, like the Christian value core thing. Like, I understand that, like, like there's a morality in the church and all that stuff, but like you look at what they've done to people over the years, and like, no, that's bad.
right. Well, I mean, that's so funny about, like, now we're talking about systems, right? And like, the systems goals, their goals that they're setting out to achieve. And everybody talks about, like, for instance, when you're in, grad school, you criticize the system that you're part of to make a better system, right? Right. Uh, but you're talking as if this is a separate entity. Like, it's just like this one school is making the decisions what it wants, and it's trying to force it on others. But then that's not the case. Individual people make up the system. You subscribe to this idea, you subscribe to a goal, you're trying to achieve it, but everybody doesn't try to achieve it the same way,
Yeah.
right? Or people don't want the same goal in the first place. So that just shows, like, we are part of a lot of people have problems with the government is because, well, the people are the government. Like,
Mhm.
you have to
Well, we
fix
elect,
the issue.
like I say, like we elect officials to make decisions for us, right? I mean, obviously, the American people elected a very, like volatile person, like that made some,
Right.
and has been making some city decisions, especially of late. Um, but like I always think, I was reading the other day, and someone had like put like up a saying. I can't remember who said it, but it's like the most patriotic thing you could do is to see something wrong with your country and try to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
Not to be complacent with how it's going and like, okay, agree it's fucked up, but not do anything about it. Like, so all these people that are walking around and can agree that police brutality is a bad thing, can agree that racism is real, but like they don't want to do anything about it, like, and claim to be patriots. And it's like, hey, if you want something to happen to your country, if you see things and don't let them happen, you are then part of the problem. Like, you are part of the system that's either voting people in or out.
Right.
Even if you're not fucking voting, which is stupid. Don't fucking vote, everyone. God damn it. And it's, I mean, we're all guilty. None of us, like, I don't think any of us can say we've gone to every town hall meeting like that has ever happened.
Right.
Like, we haven't been super involved in local politics, and like, it doesn't necessarily mean that you have to go to all those things, but at least be conscious that they're happening.
Yeah, I agree. That's the most, not the most you can, it's the least you can do, being conscious and aware.
Yes.
And I mean, as I've been saying, it's like you can't just point out an issue with a bigger system. It comes down to each person. You got to correct yourself on whatever level, like with whether it's mentally, emotional, and think people are equal on your level or whatever. It has to start at the individual. And once everybody like gets in line with each other, then that's when you can come together and have the same goal. But I know something like that. It's not easy. It's not. We can all talk about ideals.
Yeah.
I don't know if we'll ever get there, but it's like always working towards it. You have to work to better yourselves or better your others, and it's a constant battle.
Yeah, no one's gonna agree on everything.
Yeah.
But I mean, if you never speak, don't expect to be heard.
Yeah, exactly.
Like,
exactly.
you can't sit in your home and complain about things happening on the TV or like happening around the world that, like, I mean, you have literally had a chance to stop or like to vote, or like speak out against, like, in public. Like, if you are going to complain about things, then do the research, do the time, like, take what it takes to inform yourself so you can be a better, like, community member, a better person that can, like, help about things. Don't just sit and read the Twitter and complain about it, like.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, we could go on for this for 4 hours.
Yeah, we could totally go on a rant. I mean, but I love I want to call this a tangent because this all falls in line with what my work, everybody else's work, contemporary work, whatever. This is being active in your everyday life experiences is what is supposed to drive and inform your work. Art. The one thing, I mean, I know you know this already, but art isn't this separate idea where it's just like real life problems don't touch it. No, real life problems do touch it. You can't make the perfect art piece without being affected by things from your life or your own ideals, your own thoughts, your own biases. So a huge thing that I studied in my master's program, my personal studies, is world building. And there's the world, and then there's the new world. And within the world that there is the community, the environment, and the individual. The individual is that new section where the new world it's like a Venn diagram. It crosses over, right? So from the individual, you also have a new world environment and a new world community. Well, you literally cannot make anything new or original, you want to call it, without acknowledging in some way what you already know from that other world. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just be not influenced and then make something.
Yeah.
And I'm not talking about influence. Oh, influence, like, I have this grandiose idea. Like, no, you saw a yellow circle one time, and so now that is probably the same reason you made a yellow circle in this painting over here. You know what I mean? Like, you can't just make up your own imagery. So I tell people, think of nothing. Can you literally think of nothing? No. You might think of a white blank room, but that's something.
Because you saw it somewhere.
Yeah, exactly. It's something.
That's
it's
what,
like you can't actually think of nothing.
Because I
So
bet you ask 10 different people to draw nothing, you get 10 different pictures, right?
right, right. So it's the same. It's the same concept with new world building. You can't just. Oh, I love it. I mean, in that is so enamored with world building, and that's seen within the books we read, the TV, the video games, the comic books, the types of stories we consume. It's like all escapism, and it's not like it has to be otherworldly, but it might be the fact that your experience is different from others. It makes it a new world experience, you know.
Yep.
So, and a great example of that is Lord of the Rings. J.R. Tolkien is probably one of the first to do it. Well, at least that I can see it, you know, within the last century or so.
Yeah.
Yeah, J.R. Tolkien. Who else? And basically anybody who writes, who creates right now. You just
Well, I
can't.
mean, yeah. I mean, it's essentially perspective based, right? Like a new world is basically your perspective or someone else's perspective on whatever they're creating, because the individual is completely different than the next individual, right? Like
Yeah,
there might be similar experiences, like backgrounds, things like that, but like when you think about it, each individual person wakes up in a different bed every, like they walk a different path, like, they look at things differently. And so by doing that, like everyone has a different perspective. They're going to see things differently.
right, right. And you know, it's so funny. It just shows the point, like how easily I can only know what's going on in my mind. Like the fact that it can be the idea that life is a simulation right now. So the fact that like I know in my mind I'm real. So you're a simulation to me right now. You know, and the same thing that you could think I'm a simulation to you. It's the same. Everybody. The fact that in my 5 mile radius, maybe there's a world right now, but
If you
everything
want
beyond
to,
that
if you
is
want
a
to go
puzzle.
down a rabbit hole, man, I started researching biocentrism. I think it's the way is it. Like it's basically like nothing's real unless it's like happening to you. Like and like the world is just basically like it. Like you create your own world because like if you don't see it, feel it, or like it's not you. Like if you want to go down like a good 10-hour rabbit hole, you go look into that. Like, but
Yeah,
it's a
yeah,
very interesting thing. It's like there's no life or death. Time isn't linear because like like when you remember something, like it's basically a different time when you're remembering it, and every time you remember it, it's different. So it's like
right.
it's a very I was going down that rabbit hole before the coronavirus happened.
Eh,
I was like, I'm just gonna stop doing that right now.
yeah.
Very interesting.
I'll give you an example of like how time not being linear and things being different when you remember it every single time. Example in comparison to how others remember it. So within my thesis work, I have a drawing, and um, what did I title it? It's one where you see like a kitchen countertop. It's my sister, and then it's me, and there's like a goldfish down the drain. And oh my god, I'm blanking on the title of my own work right now. It's been so long.
That happens more than you know, by the way. Like
Um,
I remember
wow.
the picture. It's on the website actually.
Yeah, yeah, I seen that
Yeah,
you have
yeah,
it. So whoever's listening or
yeah.
will listen, look it up. I have curly hair, and I think I'm wearing a blue shirt, and there's the orange. My sister's wearing a purple dress, whatever. And I, that is a story of like one time. I remember my sister was cleaning out her goldfish tank, and she drops the goldfish down the sink drain. And I'm watching this happening, and she's like trying to get her fish out drain, but she can't. So next to her on the wall is a light switch and the garbage disposal. Now she turned. This is how I remember it. She's like, I don't know which one's which. I don't. She turns on the garbage disposal, flips it up, and she screams, ah, you know, and because she's thinking she grinded up her goldfish,
It's
you know,
terrible.
and She turned it off immediately, got him out, and lost a few fish scales,
Let's
but he was
cancel
still
famous.
alive.
Jesus. Okay.
Yeah, he was still alive. How she remembers it, she got him out. She didn't flip on garbage disposal at all. She turned on the light switch and she got him out. See, and it just shows you how that memory play is different. How people, but it's funny how we both remember that, and it's slightly different, and that can change how history is written too.
Yeah. I mean, there's a trauma response to how we remember things too. Like, like someone's going to remember something that affected them a lot in a different way. Like if you see something terrible happen and maybe that person doesn't think it's that terrible. It's like, when a kid sees something and when a grown up sees something, a kid is experiencing something for the first time. So when they see shit like this happen, like just especially what's happening right now,
Mhm.
it's going to resonate with them as something terrible. We've all experienced it all so much before that we're almost numb to it a lot of the time.
Yeah,
Like go on, with our normal daily lives. So it's like, it's really important that like we remember that like trauma affects the way people also remember things, So like when people talk about how like burning down Minneapolis isn't going to do anything, it's like, well, I'm pretty sure the people in Minneapolis are going to remember it traumatically for fucking years. And it's definitely going to change the way people see not only their police force there, but also just their community and their society and how everything has changed because of that traumatic response, like
Mhm.
to where the rest of us, I mean, we're going to remember that happening, but we didn't live it. So it's not going
Right.
to be, the same for us. And you can tell that by the fucking responses from people just on the internet in general, right? Like, oh, this didn't need to happen, blah, blah, blah. It's like,
Yeah.
like maybe it did. I'm not condoning shit, but like I'm also not the one living it. So I can't tell you exactly how you feel. So,
Yeah.
like when shit like this happens, like, I mean, the fucking Boston Tea Party was the same fucking thing. I mean,
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean,
Totally.
yeah, it's hard for us to I guess think past current situations to remember how like our society was formed. Like it was a rebellious, nation that basically fought against a king who didn't want to give us freedom or money and just wanted to collect all of our shit. So,
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. Wow, you know what? It's so funny. It's like in our nations, I don't even say just our nation, but the world's blood is like to like be rebellious, fight against each other, have some sort of issue. I mean, it's prominent in nature with animals. They fight for who's top dog in their pack. Oh, that's hilarious.
and the cage too,
You
like they
see,
aren't just gonna sit there and take it usually, right? Like
right? Yeah. And it's so funny how like, well, we're seeing examples of that pop up, and they're always there, but which ones are so prominent.
yeah.
I was listening to a podcast yesterday, and I can't say everything on a podcast is real, but it was Joe Rogan, and I think it was with Bill Burr, and he was talking about how like in Arizona there's a law like where if two people agree to fight each other in public, that's okay. Like if they, like, and if there's a police officer there, like they agree and they're like, I'm not going to press charges against you. They can go at it apparently because it's supposed to be like the Wild West, back like
There's a
I'm
lot
sorry.
of shit that's like that, man. It's ridiculous if you look at the laws. Like, I mean, for one, like I don't necessarily feel bad for police officers right now, but I can understand that they are not equipped to deal with situations. Like they don't know the entire law. Fuck, like lawyers, law school for fucking how many years to fucking learn how to defend people against the things that they're being prosecuted against in court. Like, yeah, of course you don't know the whole fucking law. Don't act like you fucking do.
Mhm. Yeah,
um,
yeah, that's true.
yeah, and I forgot where we're going with this, but like it's just I don't know, man. It's it's insane.
Yeah, it's it wasn't. I don't think it was Arizona. I think it was
Oh,
Oregon, or it was
oh
Oregon. I think.
no, there's also one in Texas where if like you can beat a woman with uh a stick longer than your or it's some like length of a stick in which you can still beat your wife.
Oh my God, that's
And it's like,
terrible.
why was that ever made a fucking law?
Right. Oh my
And
God.
then why to substantiate the size of the stick in which,
Right.
because it's not lethal, I guess. So you could do. I don't know if that's still a law. I remember either in high school or in like my junior college days talking about that, and
Yeah.
it there was laws like that all over. None of us know every law, and yeah, I feel like
That is wild.
yes. Well, that was
Well, yeah,
police officers having sex with people they detain and all that
they're
stuff.
thinking like this is acceptable.
Yeah, it yeah, and then the whole qualified immunity thing, which basically protects them because unless someone captures it on video, they
Yeah.
they're immune. Like unless someone can show that they're using excessive or unreasonable force, the Supreme Court just let that one go again. That
Right.
it's still legal. So like basically, it's our job as society to capture cops doing terrible things because that's the only thing that's going to stop them from doing terrible things.
Document everything.
Yep, police and the police, man.
Yeah. Well, it's like this old saying, if a tree in the forest falls with no one around, doesn't make a sound. You know, does it still happen? Like no one caught me killing this person, but did I do it or do it not? I don't know. I'm not gonna agree to admit to anything. It's just like you can't what's it in the law? You can't criminalize yourself, or you can't when you're defending yourself in court, you can't basically like incriminate yourself.
Yeah,
So,
yeah. I
I
mean, no
could
one
make up a
wants.
lie. I could be making up a lie that I
Yeah,
killed somebody.
no one wants to die. Like no one wants to go.
Right.
No one wants to lose their job. Like so. I mean, if you just think about it as a reasonable person, of course, if you're at risk for all those things, unless you feel bad about it, you're not gonna fucking lie about it, or you're gonna lie about it. Like, and if we can't understand that, then and find ways to hold people accountable for that, I think we're all fucked.
Yeah. I have a question for you. I think now that we've talked about inequalities and like recommendations and trying to catch up and like pay people back for injustices, um, and my issues with credit, right? So I know there's definitely some people who had family descendants or ancestors that were slaves. They're trying to get money back, right, from the government
Reparations.
because reparations. But I hate that. This is what feels bad is like I don't like credit, but in that way, that is credit, right? That's credit because it's like we give you this act. We did this act hundreds of years ago, and we're gonna pay you back for it in the future. That's basically, and that's the same thing like with loans, right? And
Yeah.
how much things
Well,
equal out
it's
to each other.
also like how they do with Native Americans, how they give them their lands to hold casinos on because casinos can hold large amounts of money, which can pay for the community that they took unlawfully or unfairly in previous times. Like
Yeah.
and yeah, I mean,
But at what point do we see with this is going to sound terrible, but when you pay people back, like to forgive or absolve an action in the past, money is made because you owe somebody something, right? You pay somebody for a service or a thing or an item, and so you're always in a way in debt to each other, and money is like that thing like equalizer. Well, I think credit's an issue. I also feel people should be paid back or like given something for. I mean, money doesn't equal to a person's life, right? You can't. That's
you
it's not
can't. Yeah.
equal. But um, in order to fix, like, how do you fix the country's $1 trillion debt? It's kind of like everybody has to like forgive each other, like
I
a word of forgiveness. That's
Yeah,
all. That's all that
essentially,
can really.
let's all just write off our loans. Can we do this? Give me 3 years and I'll be totally okay with this.
Exactly. The only way to
Yeah,
reset.
yeah.
The only way to reset is to do it by like agreeing to it by word of mouth and like you saying yes, I verbally agree that we're all going to start over. There's no credit. Well, we can't do that if you're doing it based on materialistic items. Like money is a materialistic thing because it literally takes resources to
Well,
make it.
and then also, I mean, I read a story recently about, I guess in London, and I don't want to say for sure, but there was basically a woman who was black, and they had taken out tax money to pay reparations to slave owners and slave family, people who were owned by like slaves and people who were affected by slavery in England. And basically, she learned that her taxes paid for her own reparations, essentially. Like she was taking out and paying back for things that were done.
Oh my god.
Yeah, and she was like, "What the fuck?" And it's like, yeah, like you can't. That's not how you fix the problem. My favorite
No.
example of like, and it's not. It didn't fix the problem, but it acknowledged it. Um, Kevin Rudd was the Prime Minister of Australia when I was there in 2007, 2009 ish. And he apologized for the lost generation. So basically, all the Aboriginals that were taken out of their homes
Mm.
and then kind of whitewashed in communities, and then were kind of like, integrated into the system. You know, white people thought this was like doing a service to Aboriginal people, but it ruined the entire Aboriginal community there. It also brought people into like communities that didn't want Aboriginals there. So like this integration, like basically just ruined a whole generation, of like these people's lives. And so he apologized for it while he was there. And man, like I remember the reaction of people when he apologized, and it was basically just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Why are you apologizing? And he's like, well, we have to start somewhere, and this is how we start.
Yeah.
Apologize.
Yeah. Yeah.
And yeah, and I thought, being over there, like, and seeing that, like, it was like amazing, especially, like, I don't think anyone's ever apologized to, Native Americans for, or the Aboriginal people of the land here that, for taking away their shit. Like, we just kind of acknowledge it in history. To have a politician stand up and actually apologize for it is probably one of the most powerful things you could do. And then, basically had the entire, his cabinet behind him when he did it. So like,
Yeah.
he couldn't just go up and do it, right? So I think you start with acknowledging a problem. I think when you bring in monetary values for things and stuff like that, I think it does become issue. Like you can't give someone, there's no way to repay someone for fucking owning their parents. There's no way to pay someone for murdering and raping their ancestors, like, and trading them and treating them completely terrible. Like, you can't apologize for that. That's just not something you can do. I mean, you can acknowledge it and promise to do better and work towards a society that doesn't do that and that doesn't value that type of system. Like,
Mm-hmm.
you do. You don't throw money at the problem, because that just creates problems.
Yeah, I mean, kind of like enforces it, right? Like if you're like, okay, if I can throw money at this problem and that fixes the problem, that means I can do that action again and just pay them again.
That's what started the problem. They wanted money.
Yeah.
They got slaves, and then so they had
So
to make money, so they didn't have to pay them, and so that's how it started. It's like,
it's a cycle, right?
yeah,
It's a
it's a
cycle.
perpetuating system, and that's what the whole systematic racism, the whole oppressive system is like. That's what we need to start dismantling. It's not like you can't just go in and say you're sorry and then move on and expect this whole 400 years of fucking just basically taking a dump on an entire culture to be okay. Like, it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And to just sit there and pretend like throwing money at people to like pay them back for what you did to their ancestors, I mean, it probably helped a lot of people get out of situations where if you were in poverty because your parents were in poverty and stuff like that, it probably helped a lot of people. But again, they're still going into that same system that started it. Like, they are just going right back into a system that perpetuated exactly what they're getting paid back for. So
Right.
where do we go from there? And I think that's how this kind of civil unrest is different than before is that we just kind of like we took it and as like a white like supreme like fucking nation, like we just kind of like okay, tell us what you guys want. And the first thing they said were like, well, we want to be paid back for what you guys did to us. And they're like, okay, here's some money, like go away. And it's like, no,
Mhm.
with them and ask them, like as community members, like how can we help to change what we did? Like
Right.
how do we change what's happened so it doesn't happen again? You can't just throw money at it.
Yeah. Right. But and they look at it like that cancels out that previous action. I could do it again and just
Exactly.
pay you back, or oh man, that's it's just a self-perpetuating cycle, and I think okay, so they probably the government will look at it like we gave you the money, so there's no issue now. But if we don't give you the money, okay, maybe you can talk. And
Mhm.
this goes perfectly to what happened to universities and colleges all over the whole nation right now, with like budget cuts. So my cohort was like thinking, we should tell the school that we want some money back from losing our education. Like what was supposed to be granted to us.
Yeah.
They they will lower tuition or being paid back or whatever it may be. But I was like, okay, I understand your guys' concern, but my issue is if you want that money back for those credits, the resources, the space, the facilities, that's also like in the transaction with like returning us something to the store.
Yeah.
No item. I'm sorry. Um, you don't want the item anymore. You get your money back, but you don't have that item. If I get my money back from the school, no degree, right? Like, why I'm going to pay for courses and then also like, hey, I want you to get my degree too, but
Yeah.
then, I'm sorry, I want that money back, but I want my degree as well. Why
Yeah.
are they going to give me the degree um, if they don't have their money? It's a transaction,
Yeah.
and I think that's a way to keep people of color and quiet. If they pay, like you said, you pay them, okay, that now we're like we should
Yeah.
be equal. We can start over, but then they're gonna still do the same actions again.
Yeah.
So
Exactly. It's just
um,
it's the self-perpetuating cycle of
it's interesting when you can find not just examples in one way, but like other ways, and you do a comparison and like, oh, it's the same system. It's the same thing.
yeah. Like you're literally just putting that. You can go into the whole uh mass incarceration, like basically that all started, like again, like the same situation, because we're still going to put you back into a system in which we can arrest you on the street and take away everything we just gave you. Or like,
Right.
we're not going to fix that. Like,
Right.
but if someone basically called the cops on you for fucking like what was the stupid bird watching, the fucking barbecuing, like
Yeah.
they could take away in everything they gave you, and like so they could like if they have your name, they know where you live. They think that you unjust. I have like the bully thing again, right? Like it becomes like this. If you confront a bully, right? There's two things that's going to happen. You get punched in the face, all right, for calling them a bully because they're a bully,
Mm-hmm.
or they're going to deny being a bully and find other ways to hurt you, right?
Mm-hmm.
They're going to go stalk you and like find you in a corner and beat you up there, right? They're going to, you know, find other people that disagree with you and stuff like that. They're going to find a way to hurt you because that's
Mm-hmm.
what they want to do because they're a bully. And if you just let that happen, like that's what our system is. We're just bullies to fucking people of color. Like we just don't like we don't want to be challenged on it, but we also don't want to accept the fact that we are. And it's like the knee
Yeah.
reaction to be calling a racist. It's like people go, "I'm not a racist," and it's like, well, I mean, maybe think about it before you react like you are right now.
Yeah, exactly. Those that are usually who are defensive, right? Like might
Yeah,
have you look in the background like, oh, you might be faulty. But what was there was like a sketch. Oh, I think it was Saturday Night Live last year, and there was like a sketch where they did for this one woman that was working in the business like, I'm gonna quit. I've had many sexual harassment problems here. I had to make a report about it. And then someone's like, what? Well, like, it's not me, right? And they're like, no, it's not you. And then the next guy over here is like, but like, I'm okay too, right? Right. And it eventually becomes all the office, the entire office of male. And you don't want to make them feel bad, but you obviously know, like, okay, one of you did it. Like,
Yeah.
one of you are doing it. You are part of the problem. Which she's like, no, it's not you, Jim. It's, like, no, yeah, you don't want to be looked at as the bad guy or the perpetrator, but we all have to acknowledge our actions sometimes.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think that's kind of the biggest problem with white America is that they don't want to acknowledge that they are the problem or are part of it, you know? And yeah.
One day when we're much older, the generations that are younger than us, they're gonna point out our issues, right?
Oh yeah.
I mean, we're doing it now. We're gonna have something.
We're gonna fuck this up too. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, there's gonna be definitely room for improvement. Because there always should be, right? Nothing's fucking perfect.
Right.
But yeah, I think the most important thing is that we actually act, and recognize like what we need to do to make this better. Like, because it's just not working, and it's not not gonna get better. I mean,
Yeah.
like, look at everything that's happening. It's just not gonna get better if we don't acknowledge the fact and try to change it.
Right. Yeah. And as we've been saying, I don't know the exact solutions. It's just working towards it. You can't to give that effort. You can't be lazy about it. You can't just expect things to change or be better. And there's always going to be an issue. But what are you doing to fix it? How you make it a smaller issue? How do you make things improve?
Yeah.
So that the other issues in the future are maybe not as like giant. But yeah.
Yeah, I think the most important thing is that like, as the world building goes, is that you start as an individual in your community, do it there. And if people start doing that, it goes into other areas, right? So like, if you can change how you're reacting to things, how you're acting with people, recognize your faults, do your best to become better, and just think differently. Like, I'm sorry, it's just people have to think differently. It's not, you can't continue thinking the same as you did before George Floyd's death. You just can't. Like, it's not reality anymore.
Yeah.
It shouldn't have been a reality in the first place, but
Yeah, it should. Humans aren't perfect.
Yeah,
as humans aren't perfect.
Fuck, dude, far from it. All right, man. So let's move on to, like, how have you been coping with everything? So you just moved back to California.
Yeah.
I mean, you're obviously worried about the virus, as we all are. How was fucking traveling back to California? Was it shitty on the plane?
It was because of this being in fear, right? And I'm not like everybody's in fear.
Yeah.
But that just makes you have the judgments on other people. Like, right? Like, that was like,
when someone's not wearing a mask,
because of my own confidence, it's just like, okay, this person's not wearing a mask, or the fact, like, I had a plane ticket, right? And originally, I was going to come home July 27th. June 27th, as I told you. And then I was like, what the heck am I doing here? I could be saving money. Like, I'm going to go fly home even earlier, because at the time, it didn't cost any money to change my ticket because of COVID.
Yeah.
So I was like, let me go. I bought my plane ticket, and I was the only person in the row when I bought it. Come to fly day, the row's full. And I'm like, oh crap, I'm near people. There's more risk. The plane was about 2/3 to half full. It's the closest I've been to people in a long time, and also the amount of people. Luckily, like, there's space for people spread out, separate, maybe two in a row or one in a row. That sucked, of course, but I feel fine now. I told myself a few days before flying, I'm like, I don't want to live my life in fear, so I'm gonna take the chances. I'm not saying going out and parties and clubs and making out with everybody.
Go to the beach, man.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm going to the beach. But I think my quality of life matters more to me, and instead of being inside and fearful. Have you ever seen that SpongeBob episode where he like it's scared in his pineapple and it's the napkin, used napkin, penny, and potato chip? That because he's afraid to go outside to get hurt again. It's that. It's that. And I was like, if I really wanted to be safe, I would have stayed in DC in my room. Just continued. But I got livelihood to worry about.
Yeah.
You know, my financial is really what makes me able to live. So I decided to move home. I've only been here for a couple of days. It's been good. Live in better conditions here, of course, than where I was at in DC. But thanks to my parents, thank you, parents, and and whatnot. I'm trying to get acclimated to life here.
Yeah.
Well,
Because
and
you're in a more rural area too, right? Because you're not in.
yeah, I live in a suburb,
Yeah.
Chino Hills,
Okay.
like 40 minutes east of LA,
Yeah.
45 minutes east of LA, and there's things on my agenda that I need to do and want to do, right? Um, One, I want to be making art. Got to do that. I have to be accountable for my own art career now. I'm not in school anymore. I finished that. So I gotta make art, have an art community, and do art things. So I'm really happy I'm doing this with you right now and appreciate it because it's just networking and having
Yeah.
those opportunities to do that. I have to create those opportunities and help others that have them. And you help me, so I appreciate that.
Yeah. No problem.
And then now being hired as an art professor, I have to create a syllabi, multiple actually,
Okay.
and make sure those assignments work out. So I got to do that this summer. I'm doing that. In the meantime, also still applying to jobs. I'm purging. I'm trying to minimize what I have because of course, whenever you move, you have a ton of
Oh
crap.
yeah, and you're mostly installation sculpture stuff, right? So that's just great.
Yeah, yeah. Man, I was like, I hate all the sentimental value stuff I have, and then like not, but can't give it up. But then like taking in more stuff. I have so much stuff. It's ridiculous. I was thinking about okay, so I have 4 different ideas for art work or practice I want to do right now, and I think, or one of them is like about coming home and moving in back in with your parents and like having a room installation. It's literally your room as it is, and be like, I'll use it sometime. And talking about all the knickknacks and things I have and keeping, and it just a lot I have is toys. Like a lot of collectibles. And like I need this Hot Wheel, I need these comic books, I need this Gorilla stand, and then all the old artwork I have from my undergrad and graduate school, and it's all crazy. And tomorrow I'm getting all my stuff in that I shipped from DC to here, all my new art supplies that I have, and I mean I have enough stuff to have a real professional studio. I'm sure that we all do in some way. We're all resources that we have, but all that I've accumulated from being a teenager to now, I mean, I have high-end stuff that I don't want to give up, but a lot of it I don't use at the same time. I wish in an ideal world where I had that big art studio space, I just move everything there and just like use it there. But no one's ever in one spot, and it's never perfect like that. So
Yeah.
yeah, I mean that's a lot. I mean, I know that's a long-winded answer, but it's
No,
a
it's yeah. I
lot to deal with, and
yeah, moving at all like all the time, right? I moved
yeah.
so much in the last 5 years, man. I don't want to like uh, yeah, but I'm going through the condensing as well because I'm going back to the east or going through the East Coast, and yeah, dude, it's like going through your stuff, and I've kept stuff from my undergrad for almost 13 years, and I'm now like, fuck, man, I haven't seen this stuff in at least 5 years. Why do I still have it? It's like, yeah, it's crazy to think that, yeah, we have so much shit. I think 90% of my shit is either my art or an art collection I've started over the years. And like,
It depends on what you define as.
yes, the unwillingness to let that go, right?
throw, like, for real, put it in the trash can and it's gone. But maybe I can repurpose it somehow. And I think that's why I keep things around. Like, I have maybe like 20 Gorillas t-shirts from my childhood that I'm holding on to. Like, I can't, these are like, they're valuable. One day they're going to be something.
I mean,
I'm like,
one
no,
day
they're
you'll
all
have a
worn.
house where you can put them in frames and hang them on the wall, man.
Exactly. But I was like, no, maybe I should make some art out of it. And so the last couple of days I've been thinking about that. And I'm like, okay, I'm easing up to that idea more. But it's still hard that fact, like, I can't wear this anymore. It's not going to be vintage. I was like, maybe I make a quilt out of it. I don't know, but to get rid of anything.
You just get fat like I did. You don't have to worry about fitting this. You'll be fine. You'll be like, I can't use this anyway. Might as well use it for art. It's fine.
Yeah. So, and I wish that people would buy my art. Or, keep
buy
it.
It's not a story anymore. That's fine.
Please buy something. Hold on. One day.
I've been giving too much shit away. I'm just like, man, I just don't want to. It's like costing me more to store it than it is to fucking like try to sell it. So I'm just like, just take it.
Well, I think at some point you just want to give things away, right? I want to give things away.
Oh, it's just so much shit away.
It's so. I mean, I would give things, but you want to give it to the right person who would value it, right? It's just all these things. Everybody has the same issues. I'm just complaining about it all, but
what we're here for, having a conversation.
Yeah. I can't seem to separate myself from it. It's funny. Like, I think I've only sold 2 things so far ever, and that was like for $60 and $40 each. So I've made $100 in my art career. Spend thousands.
That's like the amount of money you spent to go to school. Yeah, I mean, and you know what that sucks is that like not every piece of art is made to be sold. Like,
yeah, totally. Well, how do you sell performance art? I mean, you can, but it's
you basically need a dealer to sell it though, because like you trying to sell like a performance of the video. I mean, or it has to be a really good video, and you need to know who the fuck collects video work. Like that is also a whole nether level of collecting, right?
Right. I mean, I think that'll be a thing one day. That's like that guy that has that one copy of the Wu-Tang album. I forgot who. The guy that also had like the medicine for HIV. Same guy, and he's in prison or jail right now, and or he already got out. It was short, whatever it is, but yeah, like he was collecting. I had that one Wu-Tang album that nobody has. It's like maybe one day video would be valued the same.
Yeah.
But,
yeah, I mean, when we everything we display on the wall is TV stuff. Maybe. But like when I was in Aspen, I got to go to a couple like collectors' houses that like actually have art, and stuff like that. And like, it is really kind of awesome to see like video and sound work installed in someone's house. But man, I mean, it's $1 million fucking. That room's a $1 million room. The house I'm in is way more than that. Like, so you think about how much money you have to have just to install it as like a permanent fixture in your house. In which, if it's a permanent fixture in a house, you have to own the house, right? So like, it also becomes like that whole thing. So yeah, it's just interesting to kind of see that level of collecting and like when you make work, like who exactly are you making it for?
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I mean, oh my God, that's such a school thing to say, but it's true. I mean, who's your audience?
Yeah.
Who's your audience, and at what point do you even care anymore? I've gotten to the. I mean, I care, but about how to explain your work. Once you make it, it's like you're tired of explaining it, or you don't feel like you have to do it anymore, or you got to a level where you don't. And so much I saw that in undergrad when we were told, why are you doing this? Tell me why. What does this mean? What is that? But then you see professors, their solo exhibitions, and then they give crappy background or like why they're doing it. I'm like, you don't even, you contradict yourself You're
Maybe
not
know
giving me this.
exactly who you're talking about. It's making me laugh real hard.
And it's crap, right? It sucks. But then when I presented my thesis, I was the same way. I was like, and I am now too, because when you put through the system and you prove yourself, you did it. You prove yourself. You don't. It doesn't matter if people like your stuff anymore. It's about what you want and if you're pleased with it.
Yeah.
So when I printed my thesis, I was whether they like it or not. They can talk crap all they want. Hey, I'm done. You're not hurting me. You're not hurting. You can't hurt me anymore. I did it, and I'm happy with what I achieved. That's all that matters. And
I mean, that really is. I mean, it's whoever sees your work and sees it in the same light in which you created it is really the most important thing, right?
yeah, and you come to realize that you can't force people to read things how you want them to read or like you, but at that point you don't care. You make a That's all what contemporary art's all about. That orange is not orange to me anymore. It's the absence of other fruits, like that's it doesn't that doesn't matter anymore. I realized that also in my solo exhibition at Trichromatic, last year. I was so worried. I was like, I was without direction from my professors because I was in school, but I was supposed to be making work. And here I am, made a new body of work for a solo exhibition. And then I realized, wait a second, this is me. This is for me. This is for my time to shine. Whether these people come in to like it, come in to look at it and like it or not, doesn't matter. Don't look at it. That's what Mike Tyson said about his tattoo. You don't like it, don't look at it. F you. He's,
So hard
that's what
not to see it.
um so but now as a professor or someone who's going to be a professor, I still feel the same, like more power to you if you justify your work during artist talk or your solo exhibition, but you don't have to at a point. It's not because you're too cocky you think up there. It's because you value yourself enough to not have to prove yourself to everybody. That's what it is. And
I think also too, like the more confident you are when you're making your work and explaining it, if you're really confident in a body of work, explaining it almost becomes not as necessary. Because I mean, as artists, we're visual communicators, right? We're basically like creating conversations through art, right? Like we're getting people to either talk about the work, to respond to it with themselves and how it makes them feel, or how I guess we can create dialogue between other people with it, right?
yeah.
And so when you're confident in what you're making, as long as it does any of those things, it's the worst piece of art is something that someone looks at and has nothing to say about.
Yeah.
It's not necessarily like I don't get it. It's like literally I got nothing from it. I don't want to talk.
Right.
Like it doesn't make me feel any certain way. Like it's just a painting or like a piece or something like that. You're like, oh, that I failed. Like that sucks. Like,
Yeah.
yeah. So like when you can, I guess, create the dialogue between people is like the most important thing, in which your work effectively does that.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, you have to look at that aspect, even if what people are making isn't what you want to hear. If they only say bad things, that's okay because you got them to respond. You know what I mean? Like I remember my very first critique. I think you were there. My very first critique. In undergrad, my sophomore year.
Okay.
I had a ton of work, right? And the critiques are only supposed to go 30 minutes. Mine went an hour and a half. And I was happy. Whether it was good or bad, I was so happy because I got them. My work compelled them to talk that much. I know I had made another student mad. I'm mad, and I won't say who it is, but they're like, "You took up all the time." I'm like, "Yeah, but that just shows how much I worked." Like I had them in conversation. I wasn't even talking it was them talking about my work. That's what you want, and that's exactly what you just said. So yeah, I realize that now after being done with grad school and going and starting to be a professor, and I realize that. So I've had quite a few studio visits with my fellow colleagues and whatnot, and the way I speak now it's changed, or to them it has changed. Not because I'm trying to be like above them, but like I have to consider that I am part of the system now, the academic system. So like my jargon, and I'm not without trying, has just changed. The way I speak is no longer as a student. It's as a professor, someone
You are
teaching.
now a master.
Yeah, yeah. I'm trying to teach these Padawans out here. You know what I mean? I'm trying to teach the Padawans.
Oh
No, but
God, I wish more
what's
people thought
refreshing?
that way.
What's refreshing to me though, and like I think to them, is the fact that I still really try to have that student perspective because I'm right out.
Yeah.
You know, I'm fresh out.
I think that's
And
the most healthy thing any professor can do is just kind of like have that, like, you know, that energy, you know.
yeah, I think
It,
it's
it,
true. It's true to myself. I know. I think I'll lose it at some point. Like
don't ever
maybe
lose
two
it.
or three.
Don't lose it, Nico. If you lose it, you
Well,
quit.
not that I'll try, but the fact that like I'll be separated as a student and just be this touting professor telling you what to do.
Yeah. But
That's my issue. That's my issue
as a
that I had
professor,
with
your
visiting
job is
artists.
also to continue to learn. So continue to be that student, right? Like I think,
Yeah, yeah.
especially,
There's always something to learn. I
yeah,
will continue to be that student. But it's the thing that I realized that I had issues with other visiting artists and professors from my grads program was like they're coming. A lot of them will come out here and they're just like trying to be big boss and like, hey, hired me to come talk to you, and I'm the shit. And I wouldn't go for it. I would be, oh no, I wouldn't. You know, I was like, no, I'm not. No, you're not even trying to listen to what I'm trying to say as a student. You're forgetting where you came from too. You know, you were a student as well.
mhm,
Help me learn. Don't just preach.
yes,
And that's what I'm trying to do now. And talking to my colleagues, I'm doing that as well. Um, and I just hope to keep that same way of thinking and speaking, and because I think it's the most authentic, they can they can see themselves in me or the experiences I have, or understand the verbs that I'm using to help them create work. Um, yeah, yeah, like to be a continuous student, but also to help teach others at the same time. It's just weird how when I'm talking now. Like it just changes. It just comes out of me. You know, it just comes out of me. So
oh, that's good. It's a maturity thing. I think, once you've been through something, I mean, especially like, going through art school and then creating a body of work like a thesis, like I think it definitely like matures someone, like because beforehand they were just making, bodies of work to get through class. When you spend time like, a year and a half developing a specific body of work, your research is in it,
yeah,
your life is in it, like, and you have, basically this is on the line, right? Like you don't graduate if you don't get this. So you
yeah,
spend this entire amount of like energy and ability kind of like making this as important to you as it should be to everyone else, right? So like if you come out with a weak body of work, like it just means that it's not that important to you and you should have done something else, right?
yeah. Totally. So you got to believe in what you do. That is so important. I mean, don't do what pleases others just because you're trying to get a passing grade. You know, like you have to really do what you want and challenge other artists, other beliefs, movements, professors, whatnot. And what I've come to find, at least for me, by challenging them, they respect me more, and I get the outcome that I was trying to get anyways. You know, like if we're just talking about grades, oh, and I'm not trying to like, oh, look at me, but like I got a 4.0. I got a 4.0 in grad school. Now to me and to a lot of people, what does that matter? You know, what is it? It's not undergrad anymore.
No.
It's
C's get
not.
degrees.
Right. Yeah, exactly. Degree. Yeah, exactly. You get your degree. You blah blah blah. But it's holding yourself up to that standard and wanting that and achieving it. And the fact that I got that while also like pushing my boundaries and also challenging other professors and not agreeing with them all the time, that just not everybody got straight A's in my grad school. And I was like, what? You guys? I thought that was a given, you know. And I thought it was a
Passing.
given.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was like, you know, you got to get an A or B to pass. And
Yeah.
I didn't think I think I might have been the only one, or one of three, or whatever. I don't know. Okay, I'll say this. In undergrad, I was like that, the extra guy. I was extra. I was the overachiever, right?
That's why we loved you. What's that? Do I got you, man? Sorry, you just cut out right there.
Overachiever. Did I not think that like that?
What's that? Okay, sorry. That cut out for a minute, man. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. I can hear
Okay,
you.
sorry, you cut out right there. I was like,
Yeah, I know. I was cutting out bad. So was I like an overachiever?
I mean, we appreciate overachievers, man. I enjoyed having you around because not only I feel like, I mean, you guys had a certain class of kids who, um, you. It's great to see when there's like a competitive nature, right? Where people are kind of like one-upping each other, and then you can kind of like see like the amount of work that some people put into stuff, and then like sometimes there's the lack of that. And no, man, it was always great to see you come out. I mean, I will never
Yeah.
forget your breakdance performance, with the, you know, the outdoor setup that had to turn into an indoor setup that like, I mean,
At the last second.
yes, yeah, we're willing to work with the flow. But yeah,
Yeah.
like, like all those little buildings that you created, that stone, like that whole mural too, that like went with it. Yeah, man, like, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with being an overachiever, especially in art. Like,
Yeah.
I think
Well, I mean, saying that, I mean, I kept that same energy going to grad school, and I amplified it.
good.
I had to. Like, to stand out and get what I wanted, to get the accolades. I had to be that extra. I had to be the and everybody, they like me. I have a fantastic cohort that we all get along. Apparently, the last 3 to 4 years, everybody hated each other.
Oh
Like at
wow.
my grad, yeah, like I saw it by the year ahead of me. They were always fighting, and the professor said it too. Like, we love you guys. You guys have no issues. You know. But I was like, wheel gets the oil or something like that. Yeah, and you just have to work hard. You have to value what you want. You can't do it for the passing grade. Though, like I said, if you see value in your own work, that'll get other people to care for it too.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? That's as simple as it gets, I think.
Yep. If you, yeah, the time and care, attention that goes into your work, taking care of your work, documenting your work, all that stuff shows when you're showing it, right?
Yeah, yeah, that matters. I mean, not everybody has to agree with you, but if it's what you set out to do, and if it's better than what you set out to do, there you accomplished it, your goal. So
Absolutely. All right, man. Do you have any advice to anyone, going through stuff right now, that has maybe helped you get along in the last couple of months during this pandemic and social unrest that you can maybe shout out to people, keeping you sane and safe?
um, I think it has to do. The advice I have to give has to do with what we were talking about earlier. I think challenge and reform your idea of equality, because even I have not do not have that perfect idea of equality right now, because in ways we are prejudiced. But if we want people to have the same quality of life, we really have to treat each other as equals. and that starts. That I can't say where it starts, but I mean, we point out all of the things that need to be changed. I think people are good at picking and choosing, or they're good at pointing out what needs to be changed, but it's always like how.
Yeah.
But it's just that constant work that we talked about, effort. Maybe not like realizing in your mind you're judging somebody like, oh, wait a second, let me not judge them. It's like maybe I don't know how their days went. Maybe I don't know where their background is.
Yep.
Maybe I don't know. Maybe they're not doing so well right now mentally, or maybe something happened to them tragically. Not to assume things about people. Treat people how you would want to be treated. Of course, and it's golden rule. No matter how cliche it sounds. I mean, it's a constant conversation. I can go on forever. I don't know if I have anything to tell others, but you know, we all have to work together. We have to adhere. We have to be friendly, neighborly to each other to get each other through these difficult times. There's no set time for a light at the end of the tunnel, right? You know, I stay healthy, stay safe, don't get into trouble. Be true with your intentions. I think that's important. Like for instance, like the looting that was going on, you know, that wasn't necessarily all about what happened to George Floyd.
No.
That was people getting their anger out or whatever emotions they had for this whole quarantine or whatever personal things that are going on. You know, I mean, we can't write that off. It's like, oh, I'm looting because of racial injustice. No, that's not how it works.
I think besides those first couple of weeks, it's been shown that a lot of that was also not the people protesting, but the other groups that have come in to kind of take advantage of the situation. Right. So.
Oh, totally. I mean, and they're the ones that get the media, right? They're the ones that get shown.
I mean, I haven't seen a protest on the news in a week, man, and they're still going on. I mean, they're marching up and down New York, you know, Minneapolis, and you know, Sacramento and Oakland, and you know, Southern California, all over. Like, it's amazing how they turn off the videos as soon as things and are actually working and getting things done. I mean,
yeah,
man. Nieko, man, thank you so much for coming on, talking to me, being part of this project. I always enjoy talking to you, man. I love that you're going to be teaching, which is amazing, because like you're definitely someone I would like to learn from, man. Because we've all, it's just been, it's been great seeing you from like a undergrad to see you go through, your MFA, and yeah, man, it's really nice to see you're doing well. I'm super happy you got a teaching job, especially in these dire times.
Yeah.
Look forward
Thanks,
to seeing.
Man, I really appreciate it. And I've always seen for you, you're very involved in the art world and community, and you're not somebody just trying to be a bystander. You make moves, man. You really involve your community. You're proactive. I mean, I love that, and I appreciate that you do reach out to artists and give them opportunities. It's not always about taking, and you've given people multiple kinds and platforms to do that. So I really appreciate it, and I hope this won't be the only time that we talk. About art or existential.
Yeah. I'm gonna be bugging you a lot, especially when we're only a couple hours away, man.
That is true. That is true. I'm always willing to help, whether it's shows, opportunities, exhibitions, grants, publications. Publications help a lot. I would say that. And I'm hopefully coming up to your way later this summer, and I actually like, not necessarily doing this digital video stuff, but I've been talking to people so much lately. It's really helpful, man. I mean, these existential talks or just checking up on people, I think this is where it makes a strong community, and especially in these times. I mean, the ones that reach out show the ones that really care and trying to do something.
Yeah, man, I totally agree. I believe a community isn't just about the village in which you live in. It's about the people you surround yourself with. And yeah, I'm glad that you're part of my virtual village, man.
Virtual pitch. Animal Crossing.
There we go. All right, man. I'm going to stop recording. Thank you once again for coming.
Thanks, man. Have a great day.
You too.